Wow, this is incredibly difficult to get through without saying something politically incorrect. I've actually stopped and started this thing several times. I'm really going to have to learn how to edit this stuff, and then you're going to have those videos. You see those videos on YouTube where they're just all clicks and clicks and clicks, where where you see the scene shifts subtly. You know, it comes back into it's like every couple seconds they do this. It's like, wow, you guys are editing a whole hell of a lot. And these videos obviously aren't editing, though I realize the power of, it's like all you have to do is, you know, you let slip, you drop one N-bomb, not that, but you let slip something politically incorrect, and it's like, oh, this is not the YouTube of a few years ago where you could say a lot more. Where even now, it's like eventually calling, you know, using globalism as a term, globalist, cultural Marxism, cultural Bolshevism, like referring to that. By this time, like in 2 years from now, I sincerely doubt I'll still be on the platform, but that'll probably be, like, it'll go from being kind of warning flags to finally just not being allowed, because Google pushes a narrative, and if you're going against that narrative consistently, well, they're just going to get you off the platform. That's why you listen to YouTube now and you realize, like, it's just why I'm more on Odyssey and Bit Chute if I have to get stuff. There's a black holes on the YouTube map that were just not there 3 years ago, where there used to be a greater spectrum of thought, even in terms of pop culture. Like if you had a channel on YouTube and you had a big enough channel and you were constantly going against Hollywood, well, going against Hollywood means you're going against globalism, which means you're going against cultural Bolshevism, which means you're going against these Bolsheviks who are pulling the strings in Hollywood. And like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't understand why, if you did that, you'd be on ever thinning ice for the social media platform. So eventually those channels would just kind of, they would find a way. It's like, oh, the channel's gone. Do you violate terms of service? No. So, like, these channels that all got kicked off, what are they kicked off for? They went against the narrative. So even channels that were, like, talking about, like, you had a Mahler channel. Like, I don't think he does a whole lot of videos anymore. He plays video games. Like a lot of those. The funny thing is, like, there was a lot of people who were kind of vaguely on the left, but they were laughing at SJWs. And then YouTube started to delete those anti-SJW channels. They used a bunch of reasons. Like they said, first it was recirculated content, and then they just was getting rid of those channels and shadow banning those channels and demonetizing them. So even the people like who's like the some black guy and Shoe on Head, and there was a bunch of other channels, Chris Reagan, who were doing that kind of stuff, and they read the writing on the wall, and they started to go and do, oh, maybe it's better just to talk about, like, they're legitimately left-wing people, but they were laughing at SJWs. They go, oh, maybe it's better to just do video game streams or live streams or talk about video games, or, you know, you realize, like, oh, there's still money to be made on YouTube, but you got to read the writing on the wall. It's like the Hunter Avalon type of situation where, you know, that dude, whatever, completely sold out. But he sold out because he was like, oh, if I stay on YouTube eventually, if I stay in this genre, I'm going to get kicked off. But if I flip, I can go from making whatever he he was making, I don't know, $300,000 in YouTube ad revenue a year. It's like, well, if you go to the left, you're going to cut that in half or in a third, but it's still income coming in. So it's like, it's better than, for those people, you know, if you're starting a family, it's like YouTube's just a gig. So they realize, like, oh, well, some income is better than nothing. So it's like, that's why you have a lot of those channels that just kind of do video game streams, or have tried to switch to the left. It's like, well, left-wing people talking about left-wing stuff is just not that interesting. So it's like, that's why videos, a channel like that used to have, like, oh yeah, you get like 5 million views on a video. It's like, now you get 17,000. It's like, oh, well, yeah, left-wing people pushing left-wing ideology in a time period where you've got left-wing politics. It doesn't make sense. Like, people want to hear the opposition viewpoint. So, but it's like, you can't hear that on YouTube. Google, you can only hear that on Odyssey, Bit Chute. At least Odyssey is monetized now, which is cool. Anyway, so yeah, click the links. If they say they're not going to do something, it kind of means that they legitimately want to do something. Now, this is a stretch even for Hollywood. To Natalie Portman, she's okay, I guess, in whatever role she's been in. She's 5'3", and she's in her 40s, and she's not Scandinavian. She's not even European. Somewhere vaguely in the Middle East, by way of, I guess, Turkey, then Eastern European, and then wherever she resides now, probably back to Israel. But she's not European. It's like it doesn't fit the mold, and it seems disrespectful. But again, Hollywood. Like, the more you know about Hollywood, the more once you go down the Hollywood rabbit hole, it's like that's a one-way journey, because it connects to so many of these other rabbit holes. I mean, if you control the movement of money, and you control the media, then you control the narrative, and you control what gets financed. It's like I did a video on I think it's the BlackRock invests in projects, and it's like they invest in projects and they're pulling the strings. They say, oh, it has to be woke. So that's why you're getting so many woke projects, even if they don't make sense. It's like because they got investors for it. If you control the movement of money and the narrative, you control everything. It's like, oh, that's why Hollywood is so important. Yeah, losing control of Hollywood. Hollywood kind of shifted over they said it happened about 1963, where they started boiling the frog, because by that time TVs were widespread. They were in like 90% of the American households. So they started slowly boiling the frog to the point where you get now, you've got, it's just insane, the stuff you're seeing out of Hollywood now. It's just openly, it's like if David Duke and Louis Farrakhan had a baby, and they just said, like, let's just focus all this energy on people of European descent, and men, to be fair, too, because it's specifically this movie. You get a character where a woman is taking the role of Thor, and she's not a Scandinavian woman, but like just being a woman. Oh, just being a woman's bad enough. Oh, you bigot. It's Thor's the character, and I mean, not only that, he's obviously a male character. It's him, but it's like it's not a woman's role to play this. He's a character based on mythology. It fits a certain role. Everything is built up to be this character, Thor. We're going to subvert expectations. Yeah, they keep doing that, but they don't do it successfully. If you're a master craftsman in film and you do it successfully, the thing is, these people think they're master craftsmen, but they're really not. So they're really thinking about putting her in a role for future films. I mean, she's already, if you saw the previews, which look horrible, you take Thor out of Thor and you give it to her. Like, if you gotta put on the They Live glasses. You can't think that this is acceptable just on principle. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. I mean, you're asking us to suspend disbelief so far, but it only goes so far, and then it has to stop. It's like, okay, so this is based on the comic where the girl has cancer. Well, what a massively successful comic that was. No, actually, it wasn't that successful, because it's a woman with cancer. So who's buying this comic? Well, as it turns out, not many people are buying the comic, but who's the actual market? Probably boys under a certain age, where's the 90% of the market. So do they want to see a woman dying of cancer? No, that's kind of a tragedy. Cancer is kind of through everyone. Once you get past a certain age, cancer kind of goes throughout life. It's just part of life and death, and it's part of the cycle. But it doesn't make for a good story. It's just a tragedy. Like, oh yeah, it's lost someone to cancer. It's, different ages. But it's a superhero, escapist fiction, aspirational, inspirational. No. It's just a woman dying of cancer, and she's Thor, and she's a woman, and she's better than everyone else. It's like, but Thor's the guy's name. So did it sell? No. So okay, so this low-selling comic, we're gonna base a movie out of it. Yeah. Why would you do that? Because we're cultural Bolsheviks. Everything we do is to subvert and destroy. Even to the point of saying taking $200 million films and using them for the point of propaganda, and it's working for a little while. Batman and Spider-Man, they made $1 billion each. And yesterday I said this would make $1 billion. I don't know about that now that I think about it. I don't know. People are dumb. People are really dumb. If you saw Batman and Spider-Man, and you paid for it, I should say. If you paid for it, it means you supported it. If you subsidize something, you'll get more of something. Like, you get what you get when you pay for a girl who's lecturing people on on white privilege. It's like, yeah, show the pictures of the Irish miners and the poor people living in trailer parks, people who are the victims of Malum and Say acts and massive amounts of poverty, people who did nothing to you, nothing wrong, nothing to anyone. They were just cogs in the machine, you know. It's like, oh, so you lump them all in by saying they all have white privilege. So what privilege do these miners have, or these people living in the mountains just barely getting by? It's like, what privilege do they have? Oh, you don't understand. They're privileged. No, you're just repeating Bolshevik talking points. And you see that in a movie, by people who are making these movies, who are the most, if you want to talk about privilege, these wealthy people making movies, the most privileged people on earth. It's like, oh, so would you talk about other groups of people also having privilege, or just these white people? It's weird how you lump them all into this one group, but you don't do it to Indians, Jews, Chinese, Arabs, any other group on earth, blacks, any other group on earth. You just do it to these. Weird. My point is, if you pay for that, you get more of that. I'm not saying you should. Be careful here. Redress your grievance in a Malum and Say act. I'm just saying you just don't have to pay for it. You can vote with your wallet. So with Spider-Man, they race swapped all the characters with Spider-Man. Why would you support that? Oh, because it was a fun movie. Yeah, it was legitimately. I mean, these people know how to make movies. They're tricksy little good at subverters. But it's like, the devil has a smile. If you pay for these fun, silly movies where they race swap every character, and then there's an Audi in every scene. It's like, oh, come on, dude. That was a bit much. You're going to get more of this stuff. And you get Batman. It's like, oh, it's your privilege. Like, oh, yeah, don't pay for that. I'm not saying burn the theater down. Not even humorously, but you don't pay for that. That's crazy to pay for that kind of stuff. If you pay for that, you're going to get more of that kind of stuff, to the point where, so you got an African and an Israeli in a Scandinavian pantheon. That's ridiculous. Once you don't stop to think about it. Don't stop to think. Just pay the money, consume the product. No, this is actually racism against these Northern European people. Oh, no, that's fine. Well, would you do it to the Maasai? Would you do it to the Muslims, the Jews, the Hindus? Would you do it to any one of the various other, every group, you could take every African tribe that's got their own mythology and say you wanted to tell a Central African story. It's like, would you do it to any other group of people? Don't be crazy. That's histophobic. Yeah, but you're doing it to the Europeans. Why would you do it to them? Oh, because we hate them with this burning, incandescent passion that, I'm trying to wake up the normie on. Other channels are also trying to wake up the normie on a little bit. It's a challenge to try to do that and stay within the navigational guidelines. I think I do an excellent job because I'm still here, though. I mean, every day I come back to YouTube, I kind of wait for that email like, your channel's been permanently suspended. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.